right.
I went high
Were
pitched.
you ready?
I wasn't ready. I clicked fade and I was like, that was too early. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live. Very excited about tonight's show, next week's show. We're doing 2 weeks of UTMB coverage. Our guests are some of the most amazing humans on planet Earth. Tonight, we're going to be joined by Yassine Diboun is going to join us. I have so many Gus hairs in my peripheral.
You have some hanging off your beard.
We have a dog. I was nuzzling with our dog a little bit before the show, so I apologize if you see dog hair in my face. Our guest tonight, Yassine Diboun, is just one of our favorite people on Earth. He's an incredible human being, very inspiring, but he's had a pretty incredible last month and a half, 2 months. He ran Western States. We got to see him there. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. And then he traveled to France to participate in the CCC 100K at UTMB. And we're going to find out all about that race, what went down, because he has some pretty interesting stories from that event. Things didn't quite go to plan, but also he shared part of his experience with a teammate, and just hearing it play out was one of those really cool stories to come out of this event. Because I know there's thousands of people that run these events, but there's thousands of stories, and this is one of those that both Kim and I were like, wow, that's a testament to his character, the kind of human he is, and I can't wait to hear more about it, the CCC at UTMB. So sit back, relax, everyone. Ginger Runner Live, episode number 274 begins now. Ginger Runner. Yay!
It's Monday.
It's Monday. That solo yay felt really odd.
Did it feel really lonely?
Totally lonely. My voice alone, just saying yay, is the saddest thing.
Yay.
Yay. What is up, everyone? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 274. Fantastic lineup of shows for the next 2 weeks. Post UTMB, Ultra Trail Mont Blanc took place this last weekend. As always, it is a incredible event to follow from afar.
Huge spectacle.
Huge spectacle. They obviously do the best of any trail ultra event in the world as far as live coverage. They keep upping their game. I talked a lot about it this weekend on social media, just how good it is. And their sponsors are a huge part of that. The thousands of people running are a huge part of that. It becomes a huge community of those who are there and those around the world who are spectating, following friends, family, people they look up to. So tonight's episode is dedicated to CCC. Our good friend and just amazing human Yassine Diboun is going to be joining us on tonight's Ginger Runner Live to talk all about his experience at the CCC, which is the 100-kilometer version of the race at UTMB. We were just talking about this. There's 40 different races. TDS, PTL, UTMB, OCC, CCC, MTL.
MCC.
Thank you, Yassine. There's many different events and distances there. Yassine, fresh off of Western States 2019, he just ran Western States 100, traveled to France to participate in the CCC. So we're going to hear about that tonight. Next week, we have champion Courtney Dauwalter on the show to talk about her experience at also Western States and having to bail due to injury late in that game. And we witnessed that unfold in real time, but then be able to rehab her injury, get back to training, and win the whole damn thing. This last weekend, it was amazing to follow. So Courtney next week. Tonight, we get to talk to our great friend and just wonderful human Yassine Diboun about his experience. But it's not just myself. You're here.
Hi. I am like never ready. I should just do like a sad, lonely yay.
Go for it.
Instead. No,
you're gonna leave that to me.
Yeah,
the sad, lonely yays.
What is up, you guys? My name is Kim Tashima Newberry. As always, I will be keeping an eye on the chat room. We are live with our wonderful guest, Yassine, who you'll see in just a moment here. But if you guys have questions for Yassine, please pop them into the chat room.
Yes.
Already lots rolling in.
Good.
Lots of chatter happening.
I mean,
people are excited to find out all the details.
Yeah. It's one of those things for those of us who can't be there to witness these events live or spectate. It is so great to get individuals who participated in these events or even participated and then spectated or crewed. There's just so much that happens on the ground that you don't get in the live coverage, despite how good it is, the stories and all those individual answers that you want to get out of the experience. So tonight, having a guy like Yassine who not only participated, but also was able to spectate a little bit and support others out there, it's just a good thing. And he's been there before. He's participated in these events before, so he knows a lot about what goes on there, who was running, what goes into running the big one, UTMB, and all that good stuff. So we'll introduce Yassine here in just a second. Before we do, of course, we have individuals that we like to thank. They are the reason that we're able to do these shows every single Monday live. We do reviews, we do films, we do a whole bunch of stuff here on the channel. And it's because of our Patreon supporters that we're able to do this full time. So big shout out to all of you GR crew members on the Patreon side of things at patreon.com/thegingerrunner. 3 individuals in particular at that top tier. Chris Lee in Hong Kong. Chris and his organization Trailblazer, they showcase all the amazing trails that are just in the Hong Kong region. A big shout out to him. He and I recently spoke, and he's fine. His family is fine. Everything that's going on in Hong Kong right now. We just want to send our love to him and his family. He just does such good things for the trail running community there. So, and he's a big supporter of everything that we do here. Rick Bjarnason and his team at cheekymonkeymedia.ca. They're a web design company. They redid the gingerrunner.com website completely from the ground up. He himself is a trail ultra runner, finishing the Sinister 7 earlier this summer, and just a rad dude, really, really supportive and ultra runner and tech guy. So it's cool to have him on board and help with the website. And finally, Brian Sands, longtime supporter, incredibly inspiring individual. In his journey, he's lost over 100 pounds, ran his first marathon, ran his first 50K, currently training for longer and more brutal distances. He just attempted the Squamish 50 and suffered a knee injury, but just pushed on as far as he could. He's a rad dude, and he's just super inspiring and has been a regular viewer and a longtime supporter. So big shout out to those 3 individuals at our top tier on Patreon. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our wonderful guest tonight, who is, I'm warning you, fresh off the plane. He basically got back to his home in Portland, Oregon, late last night. So he is on French time currently. He's doing
got home, did some scootering, and now he's here with us.
He just talked to us about, he had a birthday, his daughter's birthday as well. They did some scootering. He is very coherent. If my questions are boring, he may fall asleep. I don't want him to, so I'll try to keep everything as entertaining as possible. Without further ado, our wonderful guest tonight, Yassine Diboun.
Yay!
Hello, everybody.
Welcome back.
Thank you for having me back. And thanks for the kind words. You two are some of my favorite people on earth as well.
You are, I think Kim and I talk about you in this house a lot. Just from following your stories every day. We talk about you every day. We won't tell you why, but we love following you on, of course, social is the easiest way to follow our friends and to see what they've been up to and stuff. But it's just so cool to see what you've done for the Portland trail running community. You're a huge pillar of this community. You helped shape the trail running community there, and by far, one of the best beacons of that local community. You're a father, an incredible dad. It's really cool to see you managed to juggle all of this while simultaneously incorporating adventure into your lives too, covering large sections of the Pacific Crest Trail as a family and all the training that you do. It's been a while since we had you on the show. We had you on the show after last year's Badwater with Sally McRae to talk about your experience there. Going into this year, let's kind of start here, because you got into Western States, obviously a bucket list race for a lot of people, and CCC, another bucket list race for a lot of people. How did you go into this year different from previous years with training, with balance, and trying to find that rhythm that would allow you to get to these stages and perform at the level that you wanted to perform?
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, I want to say that whatever things look like on social media usually aren't usually the way that they happen, and most people know that. But so it's kind of tough to balance everything you just mentioned. Sometimes,
sure.
With being a father and athlete and business owner and all that. But I try my best and try not to, lose my what. But yeah, I started partnering with Columbia Sportswear this year, and as you may know, they're the title sponsor of the UTMB races and events, and it was great to join the team there, and they're really trying to bring back the spirit of Columbia Montreal. And they had one ask, which was, we want you to go and do one of the UTMB races. And I was just like, okay.
Okay.
Okay. So anyway, that was going to be kind of my goal race for the year. And, as most of us know, the odds are not great to get picked into Western States lottery. So naturally, when I didn't want to get picked, I did. So normally, normally I would not stack. I personally don't like to stack these long, very difficult races too close to each other. So, but I got picked in Western States, and then I was slated to run CCC. So I said, I guess I'm doing both this year. And like you said, these are two bucket list races that I just felt like, wow, just turned 41 years old. Who knows how many other opportunities I'll get to do these kind of races like this, and just packing it in to the stream of life, So I knew it was going to be a lot, and just from doing Western States 3 times and what that training entails. But I kind of felt that they went like hand in hand, so to speak, as far as like just getting my body ready to handle like the big downhills. CCC has more climbing in 100K than Western States has in 100 miles. So that was something that I had to transition to after Western States, just kind of doing more climbs and getting the poles out, and then just kind of getting your head wrapped around doing that much.
Did you, I mean, knowing that you had these two back-to-backs, one, I mean, of course, going back to UTMB and running CCC with your title sponsor is like, that's a dream. And then finding out you got into Western, did you look at this year as, oh man, this is going to be a real tough one? Like, did you have to sacrifice other things in your life to be able to achieve the training needed to do this back-to-back?
I basically told myself I'm going to kind of front load the year into Western States and put a lot of training into that, which I ran like 2,000 miles leading up to Western States. And then I basically told myself, like, I've got enough
just in this year alone, just in 2019.
Yeah, just before Western States.
Wow.
And so I said, I have enough experience in this sport that I'm just going to kind of, muscle memory, kind of maintenance type stuff in between Western States and CCC. And I did some big runs, but I focused more on like climbing and power hiking and getting the poles out and really focusing on specific to Alps training, and not like, because there wasn't really that much time. There was like 2 months from Western States to CCC, exactly 2 months. So there wasn't a whole lot of time to like build up and then taper down. So, like I said, I don't normally position races of that distance so close to each other. So it was a little bit of a new experience for me.
I want to remind everyone that, of course, we are live with Yassine Diboun, fresh off of the CCC. Kim's already pulled a bunch of questions from our chat room. If you have questions for Yassine, please ask them in there. She'll pull them aside. But what do we got?
Just a question about training from Kim Wrinkle. Kim asks, Yassine, living in Portland, how do you best prepare for the elevation and vertical gain of races such as CCC and UTMB? So are you out there doing repeats, or are you finding those long sustained climbs?
Yeah. Hey, Kim. Thanks for the question. Good one. Luckily, we do have some pretty specific kind of gradients of mountains out here. So I spent a lot of time out at Mount Hood, in the Columbia River Gorge as well. There's one climb in particular. It's called Mount Defiance, which is 5 miles up and 5,000 feet. So that's basically like our first climb in CCC. Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, the thing, it wasn't too difficult to find specific training around here. I mean, I did have to drive a bit, maybe like an hour and a half, 2 hours to get to some of this stuff. But it was more of just like the distance of this race combined with the climbs and the descents and the technicality and the heat that all just played out on race day. And yeah, so there's nothing like the Alps. I mean, as you probably witnessed from watching along on the UTMB and other races, like this course just like chews up the best of runners and spits them out.
I mean, that was one thing that we definitely noticed this weekend, and people are giving their hot takes across social media, but it was really interesting to just sort of see the carnage play out, and a lot of US runners giving into stomach illnesses and all these external influences influencing their day. And it's heartbreaking to see someone who's trained so hard and for months, years to get to that stage hope for a certain result and just one thing change and alter their day, and you can see that play out in real time, and it's heartbreaking.
Absolutely.
Did you do anything on your end to like combat that? Like, did you, having been to this event before, both states and UTMB, did you do anything in your preparation for these events that sort of like could combat those um, potentials that could take you out of your race experience?
So for Western States, I guess for both of them, I just made sure that I didn't get caught up in the high energy flow of the start, because both of those races, more so UTMB and CCC, they literally, you've probably seen the videos, they go out like it's a 10K. I mean, it's insane. I mean, or maybe even like a 5K. I mean, people are sprinting off the line through the streets. And when I did UTMB 2 years ago, I definitely went out way too hard. And because you have like 5 miles of running through the streets at UTMB, and I looking back on my splits and stuff, I went way too hard. So it was kind of nice that CCC only went a mile or so, and then it started going up steeply.
Right.
And I just said, I don't even care if I'm in 300th place right now. I'm just going to back off and let these people go. Unfortunately, I get a little bit bottlenecked going up the climb, but it was kind of a blessing in disguise, because then once it opened it up, I just started passing so many people, and ended up playing out the way I wanted to for the first half at CCC this year. And just, both of those races are notorious. Well, Western States is notoriously hot, which we had kind of a less hot year running through snow for the first 30 miles
right
this year, which was interesting. And then paradoxically, CCC ended up warming up pretty good through the heat of the day. But I felt like I took care of myself through that as well.
Let's actually start at states, because we haven't got a chance to talk to you about your state's experience. We got to follow a couple individuals there while we were filming some stuff, but every time that we'd see you come through, it's like, Yassine! And you'd have a smile on your face. Your crew would be ready for you, NASCAR style. How did that race play out for you? Was it what you'd hoped your performance would be there? Was it fun? Was it difficult? What were the big challenges and all that?
So the big thing for Western States was, I've run it. That was my 4th time running it. I've done fairly well there. My average was like 12th place with like 17 hours at Western States out of the 3 times. Oh. So I kind of went in like, okay, I know where I need to be. I know what I need to do. It was the first time that I dealt with snow running through the high country.
Right.
And that slowed me down a little bit. And I was actually running with Courtney, just behind Courtney and Claire for a good portion of the high country. And it's so ironic because, you're running through all this technical snow and things like that. And then I get onto smooth trail just past Duncan Canyon, and I totally face plant and cut open my hand and damaged my pinky. I thought I broke my pinky, and
that's right.
I ended up going into this stream in between Duncan Canyon and Robinson Flat, and I was just kind of washing off my hand, thinking like, I can't believe I damaged myself already, like 25% into the race, and but I'm like, I'm still in good place here, I'm still like, I don't know, I can't remember if I was in like the top 20, 25 or something, and then all of a sudden I look up the hill. And I just see this huge pack of runners just screaming down the hill. And it was like Caitlin Gervin and like Casey Lichtig. And I mean, you just on and on. Yao Wang. Like, I mean, it was just like, oh my God. And I just like rinse off my hands and I just start running up towards Robinson Flat. And it's just that moment just really put into perspective to me of like, first of all, Western States is so competitive. It's turning into a 100-mile dash. Any little error that you have out there, which when I got to Robinson, I took 5 minutes to get my hand taped up and cleaned up, changed my shirt, because I had blood all over me, changed my shoes real quick. And in that time, just like 10 to 15 runners just flew past. And so that kind of messed with me mentally. And then as I left, I told myself, don't try to make up all this time now. Don't try to like catch up now. And I just kept on going. And through the, I guess the middle part of the race, I was starting to cramp a little bit. And I just didn't know where that was coming from because I felt like I was hydrating well and I wasn't. But I just tried to be patient and not get in my head because I was starting to get negative. Like, why am I not running faster? Why am I so far back? And I just had to change my perspective. And I just had to tell myself, like, I'm running Western States right now. Like, do you know how many people would love to be here right now? And like, doesn't matter. Just run. Like, and I ended up linking up with a couple of runners, Beth Pascal, who ended up finishing high up at UTMB again this year. She ended up finishing up 4th at Western, I believe. And we ran many miles together, and it was really great to just like connect with her and just climb up Devil's Thumb together in Michigan Bluff. And I came back around, and it was nice to see you guys out there, and got a high five from Gibstack out there at the 100K mark. And like, I felt like I came back around. I ran through Forest Hill with my daughter Farah, and then I picked up my brother at the river, which was really special. So it didn't end up turning out to be quite the race I wanted to time wise. But in some ways it was really more special because I got a chance to have my family around me. My wife and daughter were there. My brother had flown out from the East Coast to share the last 20 miles with me. And, I hadn't been there in 4 or 5 years. So just kind of accepted that, like, yes, I've run hours faster on this course on much hotter days, but, as athletes, sometimes you just wake up and that's what you have on that day and you roll with the punches and you just get to the finish line.
Like knowing that you started Western States, did you have a goal in mind? Like, did you have here's what I would hope to happen today?
Yeah, I wanted to run close to what my average was, which was like in the 1740s. And I thought I could still do that based on, like I said, I've run that time on much hotter days. So I was thinking, it's not going to be as hot. Like maybe I can still run around that same time. But there's so many variables. And, my brother really reminded me too, because he could tell like the next day I was a little disappointed. It's like, dude, you still like finished in like the top 10% of the race and like sub 20 hours. And, he starts rattling off all these statistics. And I'm just like, yeah, I know. But, as runners, we kind of put a lot of pressure on ourselves sometimes. Right.
Yeah. I remember talking to Brian Morrison after his 10-year return to States, and he started that race with sort of an expectation of I'm not going to win it, but maybe I could go sub 24. Maybe I can, he had a time in his own mind that he shared with very few people. And when it wasn't going that way, it was interesting to sort of see that shift, because I think every runner at some point has that shift of here's my expectation and here's my reality, and they might not be meeting. But how did you manage that? How did you manage that expectation and manage to continue on and finish that race despite the disappointment, the doubt, the lacking of the performance that you had hoped? Like what was that transition, and like how did you manage that? Because I look up to that. That's a huge quality to have.
I think I really just had to shift my perspective on like just thinking about like how lucky I am to even be here, to running Western States for my 4th time. Like some people's careers, some friends of mine, their careers passed them by and they've never got picked in the lottery. Yeah. I almost feel kind of guilty about that. So I just started thinking about them and started thinking about like, it doesn't matter. I was actually just talking to somebody about this Bill Murray scene from this movie Meatballs, where he talks about how it doesn't really matter. If we win, it doesn't really matter. If we lose, it doesn't really matter. And so I just, I started doing math out there, and I just started setting other goals for myself. Well, maybe I can get 18 hours. And then I realized that wasn't happening. But, it's just, the mind games you play with yourselves, and you just can't let the committee, is what I call it, the committee in your mind get too powerful, because the committee will talk you into like, oh, like, you might as well just drop out and, recover yourself, or, for CCC. Like, that could have been a rabbit hole I went down. Like, oh, you're not having your race, just drop out and then like get super fit for CCC. But I didn't want to. I didn't want to. I wanted to finish Western States, even if I didn't hit my mark.
I love that you refer to it as the committee. Having dealt with like voices in my head telling me to like, oh, don't finish your long run today, or I have a race coming up, you're not gonna be able to do it. Like all those sort of things in your head that are, you sit there and you kind of listen to that lecture from that voice of like, oh wow, maybe this voice is right. But calling it a committee, I'm like, that's brilliant. Because it's like you're in a board meeting or something.
I just like pictured a bunch of like minions or something.
Yeah.
Just like,
you're gonna fail. Oh my God, I gotta listen to this committee. I mean, they're so loud today. I look up to that, man. Like that's every runner, every ultra runner, everyone that attempts an ultra at some point has a sit down with their committee in their head. Like they have that meeting, and it's whether or not you take that direction or you listen to the boss or whatever. This metaphor could go on for. I love it. I love this metaphor.
Yes.
But we do have live questions, of course, about a lot of this. So let's get to some of those.
Lots of questions about CCC. But maybe we can jump into those in a second here.
Sure.
We're going to get going.
Yeah, we'll jump into that in a second.
Another question from Kim in the chat room. Kim says, you mentioned balancing family, business, life, and training. What might a typical training day look like for you, including all of those other responsibilities?
Sure.
Yes. Well, I coach a lot of runners, mostly around Portland area through my company called Y East Wolfpack. So a lot of times I can combine kind of a workout with them and a run for myself in the morning. So maybe it might be like a tempo run for them, and it might be, a kind of a normal run for me. Sometimes I coach runners that are faster than me, so it's actually a workout for me too. And then a lot of times I have to just kind of get crafty, as you find out as a parent. For example, my daughter loves to ride her bike, so maybe a nighttime activity for us is she rides her bike while I run alongside of her, and things like that. And like I said, it's not always easy. Sacrifices have to be made sometimes, which means I have to wake up at 4:00 in the morning and go out, or at nighttime after everybody goes to bed, things like that.
It's pretty cool, again, to sort of see what you're able to do. And I think a lot of people look up to dads and family people like you who are able to balance a lot of it,
Yeah. We were just talking with Gavin Woody recently also, who's like this fantastic family man and also does like this and this and this and this and this. And also on top of all those things, Yassine also volunteers a lot. And Steven Sands in the chat room says, Yassine filled my water at this year's Stumptown Trail runs. It was powerful.
Yeah, if you are in the Northwest, go run any race in Portland or around Portland. Yassine is usually out there at an aid station. And I did a short film on Yassine behind the run a couple years ago, and I drove down. Well, I guess I flew up. But when I met Yassine, it was him and his daughter at an aid station, like all by themselves in the middle of the woods in Forest Park. And it was the coolest thing because they were like dancing on the trail and high-fiving everybody. Like volunteer and community work is a huge part of what Yassine does. And just, again, just shaped the Portland trail running scene. It's pretty damn cool. I want to get into, first, kind of wrapping up the Western States side of things, because obviously CCC is a huge part of this recent experience this summer. You finished in under 20 hours. You were 22nd place male, and it is awesome. You, as much as I'm sure you're like, oh, I wish I was around the same time as before and that sort of thing. Dude, you crushed it. And it was so cool to see. It was really cool to see you come into Robinson just like, I broke my finger. I don't know what happened. Dude, I can't move it. Like my arm is all messed up. Like you were in a state of, I don't know what I'm going to do. Today is not going well. And then the next aid station we saw you, which I think it must have been Michigan Bluff or something at that point. But you came in just like, what up, guys? Like, got my wrap on, like totally good. It was so cool to see you take circumstances that were less than stellar, especially early on, and just switch it over. You switched it into another gear, and you were just thankful to be there. It was really, really cool to witness.
Well, like they say, this too shall pass, right? And I always say in ultra marathons, if you're feeling good in an ultra, don't worry, it'll pass too. And that's what happened to me. I got to Michigan Bluff. I said, I'm rallying, guys, and then I saw them at Forest Hill, and at Forest Hill, I really started feeling good. I don't know what happened, but I started moving up. Just had a little energy surge. I had everything on me. And I said, I got a high five from Ben Gibbard. And I was just like, yeah, guys, I'm not stopping. I got everything I need, And Farrah's running, my daughter's running with me down the middle. And Willie jumped in with me. And I was like, this is perfect. I'm going to start moving up. That's what they say. The race starts at Forest Hill. And about 10 miles later, it was just kind of like sad trombone.
Oh.
Somebody pulled the plug out. So that's so it goes with these long races, It's nothing's guaranteed, and it's all part of the journey, I guess.
I actually think I have a sad trombone noise. Is that it? Did I just press the right button? Because I can't hear it. We can't hear it.
I don't think that was it.
Okay. Is that it? No? Is that it?
Stop pushing.
Okay. There it is. There it
was
is.
That it?
That was it.
I don't know. We have little noises to make. We actually can't hear them ourselves.
That last one was it.
So off of Western States, you have about 2 months before CCC. Was there anything that you did special in those 2 months? Was it kick your feet up, relax? Was it vacation with the family? What was it?
No, actually, I did a couple big runs, which involved circumnavigations of the volcanoes locally. So I got pulled into this Columbia Montreal project because one of the other athletes who was supposed to go for the FKT got injured with a stress fracture. So they're like, hey, would you be able to step in to do this? So I went for the unsupported FKT around Mount St. Helens and just barely snuck under it and like 41 seconds under.
Yeah, I was going to say it was less than a minute under.
Less than a minute under. Yeah. And then it got beat 2 weeks later by some 20-something-year-old kid. So,
I actually didn't know that.
Fun. Yeah, it was.
So you lived with the FKT for a couple weeks.
Yeah, the body wasn't even cold yet. But no, it was. It's all good. I totally support it. It's part of the fun,
Yeah.
So I did that, and then I also ran around Mount Hood on the Timberline Trail, which is one of my favorite runs. I did that with Ian Sharman, which we've done 3 or 4 times together, and it's just kind of a ritual to run around these volcanoes. And so those were a couple of the big ones that I did leading up to CCC.
And a real brief side conversation. Previous guests of the show, Ladia Alperson-Junkins and Justin Grinwald, they had a team and they just set, I believe Ladia, did they do it together?
I believe Ladia set the women's course record.
The FKT, which had been standing since the early 80s.
Yes, that was impressive.
Yeah. That trail is no joke. 40-ish miles, 10,000 feet again.
Yeah, I did a little run in Chamonix with Mario Fraioli, and he was telling
Mario Fraioli, yeah.
Fraioli, and he had told me that they were going up there to do that, and I just saw that actually today that they said that, so that was really cool.
Yeah. So a quick shout out to them just because that just occurred, and Ladia's obviously been on the show before, and Justin's a friend of the show. So, talking about that training going into CCC. Let's hear a bit about your race experience. So I want to hear about were you going to say
Can we
something?
just take one step, like a tiny step back? There was a question earlier on in the chat room asking why you chose CCC to do versus any of the other many distances that are offered.
So even though I am with Columbia, I only had enough points to do CCC. I think I was like 1 or 2 points shy of UTMB. And like I said, I don't like to stack these really long, difficult races too close to each other. So the TDS they extended this year, which was like 93 miles, with some people say is harder than UTMB. And then obviously UTMB is 105 miles. I just felt like because I had the points for CCC, it was 62-ish miles. So I thought that would be a good one. And plus, also when I did UTMB 2 years ago, I really dealt with a lot of tough weather where I didn't see some of these beautiful sections. So I thought, okay, if I do CCC, it's almost the same course, but 40 miles shorter, but maybe I'll get to see some of these really cool areas that I didn't get to see during UTMB. So that was part of my rationale.
Let's talk about your experience, because I know it was going well and then it wasn't going well, but there's some camaraderie and sportsmanship and stuff that occurs here that it's awesome. And I think it's a big part of what makes these races so special. So let's talk a bit about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's a big reason why we all do these races. We don't know what's going to happen. There's such long races. You can be super fit and have a horrible race, or you can be not very fit and have a great race. And I recently this year was looking up the word adventure in the dictionary, and one of the many definitions, one of the ones that I connected with most said something to the effect of taking on a risky endeavor where the outcome is unknown. And I just really like this sense of adventure. So, sometimes I feel like I go into these races and I just do the same things over and over again and make the same mistakes. So I was really just trying to practice some self-control. And like I said, out of the gates, I just let people go. I just said, you guys go run fast down the streets of Courmayeur. See you later. And so I just started climbing. And like I said, it was a 4,500 foot climb out of the gates. It's just brutal.
Welcome to Courmayeur.
Yeah, exactly. But and I saw somebody else asked in the chat room too about the photos that I had posted, and those were taken by some of the Columbia Montreal photographers that were out on the course, but they were up there at this Bertoni and Bonatti area, which is like one of my favorite spots in the whole course. And I got up there and I was having such a good time. I was feeling good. I was moving up. I was passing people. I was running with people. And, I ran towards Grand Col Ferret, which is another huge climb. And it goes up to one of the highest points in the course. And I could already tell that I was moving up, and I could tell that I had made some good decisions. And it was a beautiful day. It was clear. I mean, you could see the mountains all around you. It was just something I'll never forget. And then I told myself, at that point, we have miles and miles of downhill. So this is where I'm going to use those Western States legs, right? And just start picking people off. And that's exactly what I did. I just started kind of moving up. Like you said, Kim, I was waving to the cameras, coming to the aid station. I didn't know that.
Keep on pumping, man.
Yeah, I didn't realize that when I did UTMB 2 years ago, all my videos coming through the camera stations where I was just I was just covered in rain and miserable looking. So I said, next time I do that race, I'm going to wave to the cameras or play the air guitar or something. So anyway, I was feeling good. And got all the way down to, I think it was La Folie aid station, and I saw my friend from Portland, who I believe has won CCC in the past, Keely Henninger.
Oh yeah.
And she was having some trouble with her feet, and I'd caught up to her, and she and I kind of ran together for a minute, and she was talking about dropping out, and I was trying to give her some, try to talk her out of it and give her some tips and some advice on how to take care of her feet. And so we kind of made our way all the way down towards, I think it was La Folie.
Yeah, I think that's the next one.
I think she stopped there. But I just continued on. And as I left there, I started I don't know if it was because of all the downhill or the uphill or what, but I felt a little bit of an old injury starting to rear its head just a little bit. Yeah, and I was just like, oh man, I'm gonna pretend like I didn't feel that. And it's deep in the adductor where it attaches to the hip, and I had it just kind of an annoying injury. It didn't stop my running, but it was kind of a nuisance for like the last year chronically, and then it's gone away for like all 2019. I thought it was behind me, but then it started rearing its head a little bit. So I made a little bit of a note of that and tried to like back off a little bit. And then I got to Champagne, which is about 50, I think it's about 55K. It's around the halfway point. And I was feeling pretty good still. And I saw my Airbnb roommate there, which is Katie McConaughey, Joe McConaughey's wife. And she's like, Joe just left. And I was like, what? Because Joe, I thought was going to be like way out ahead. And if, for those of you that don't know Joe McConaughey, he's an amazing athlete, FKT holder for the Pacific Crest Trail and Appalachian Trail. Very talented runner, ran for Boston College, just came off of a second place at the Vermont 100. So I really didn't expect to see him, honestly. And the fact that he was just ahead, I was really surprised. But I was also kind of like, wow, okay, I'm moving up, as expected. So when I finally came upon him, probably like a few miles later after I left Champagne, he was having some heat-related illnesses, and he was basically telling me he was going to throw up, and he sat down on the side of the trail, and his face looked like really pale, and he kind of had that like 1,000-yard stare, and he just started yakking, and just, like I said, we were staying in the Airbnb together. We had become friends over the years, and we're teammates, and I was just like, I just was like, I'm not going to leave him here. I mean, I could easily just be like, hey, good luck, but I'm going to, it was also kind of a safety thing. And he got back to running, and he had the hiccups, and he was really struggling. And I told him that I was kind of struggling a little bit too with that injury. And I said, do you want to just like band together and try to like knock this out? And he's like, let's do it. Let's do it. And so I had to pull out one of my dad tricks too. And finally I said, I know how to get rid of the hiccups, right? And he's like, you do? And so this is for any of your listeners out there too. You take like a bottle like this, and you tell them to open their mouth, and you're going to pour the bottle in, and you just say, focus on the water. I'm going to pour it into your mouth. And I just kept doing that, and I just like never poured it in. But I got him to focus on it, and it supposedly just like relaxes your diaphragm as you're focusing on that. And he was just like, wow, my hiccups are gone.
That'd be a fun thing to like stumble upon as another racer. What is this guy?
Why is it? Just pour the water.
Exactly.
Just pour the water.
The water.
Like if you're on the live camera or something, one of the filmers guys like, I got to go to another. This is boring.
So that was one of our many experiences on the trail together where we bonded. But yeah, we started just working together. We started, he was cramping up a lot on the downhills. A couple times I like stopped and waited for him as his like leg was seizing up. And then he was climbing a lot better than I was. Ironically, I was like, my quads, both of them were about to cramp on the uphills. And there were some nasty uphills and downs. So after Champagne, there are three major climbs, and each one of them just took so much out of both of us.
Yeah.
But I think for like the next 15, 20 miles, like we were really working together. There were times that he was waiting for me or I was waiting for him, but we just decided like, you know what, our time goals are out the window right now. Let's just try to have fun with it as much as we can. And let's just work together and enjoy each other's company and, get to the finish line. And then finally we got to the last climb, and it was dark by now. And I had no idea that the tables would turn so much. But
Wow.
on this last climb, it just took everything out of me. And I never throw up in races. And I ended up down on all fours in some blueberry bushes, just throwing up and yakking. And we had still like 3,000 feet to climb. And
Ugh.
it was dark and just so many runners were coming past. And it was really frustrating. And we coached each other the whole way. We coached each other and we waited for each other. And like we each could have gone our separate ways hours before. And maybe we would have gotten faster times, who knows? But we kind of created something bigger, I think. And it was interesting because we were talking about that, and it actually happened with another one of our teammates in OCC, and she was struggling a lot, and she was running with somebody who broke out in hives.
Oh no.
And she was worried about him and like his rash and she realized afterwards that she was so worried about this other person that she forgot about her own problems. And I think that's kind of what we took away from ourselves too. It's like, because we were worrying about the other person, we kind of put ourselves aside a little bit. And a lot of, I guess there are a lot of other, like for instance, there's a lot of 12-step groups that talk about like by helping others, you kind of help yourself kind of thing. A kind of notion of, getting outside of yourself and, just realizing like, hey, we're all doing this together, whether you're in first place or you're in 20,000th place.
Right.
This is really tough, and we're just trying to get to the finish line. And so we basically were having fun with it. After I finally got up to that final climb and basically came down, all these people were passing, and we were just like, yeah, we're cheering them on. Go. Yes, we're like, LA. And they're like, come on, run with us. And we're like, no. And so, it was a great time. Like some of the photos, I risked so much of these adventures or races are so often hard to articulate into words. And of course, while I was out there, I was just like, I'm not doing these anymore. I'm not cut out for these types of races. I think I should probably just go find something else to do. I should probably retire. I had my day. You know what I mean? Like that.
I've heard you say that a bunch.
Yeah,
I personally have heard you say that 10 times at 10 different races.
It's the committee.
Yeah.
It's the committee. It's totally
That's exactly right.
And and I finally got to the finish, and we had fun with it. Joe picked me up in his arms, and we embraced, and that was really a good kind of metaphor too, because we really did carry each other through that race, and we kind of created something bigger than just a finishing time and a finishing placement.
I think that's amazing, man. Like I read you did a brief sort of synopsis of this story right after you finished, and I remember reading that and just kind of going, this is such a testament to who you are and to who Joe is. String Being Joe is
Yes.
Kim graciously pointed out in the chat room. His nickname, I believe it's his AT name, but
It's his trail name. That's
trail name, yeah.
Yes.
Just badass athlete.
Yes,
But it's a testament to your characters to sacrifice your own race or your own success at a race or your own position in that race to just help someone else, sacrifice a little bit of your day to contribute to someone else's, which in reality makes your day even better. Like that seemed to have shaped both of your experiences in a way that's almost more profound than had Yassine just like, you'll be okay, man. It's heat stroke. I'm going to keep going. And maybe you would have thrown up in a blueberry bush closer to the finish line. Who knows? It sounds like this experience was almost more memorable, more special than had you just gone about it alone,
I think so too. I mean, I feel like there's I don't know, in this day and age too, it's like, I think there's the stories that I think humanize us, also people connect with, but also these stories of people banding together rather than going against each other all the time. I think that's kind of the stories people like to hear too, and that's just what happened on this day. It wasn't premeditated or anything. It was just kind of the way it kind of unfolded, and I felt like it was the right thing to do in the moment. And I'm sure there were times that Joe was like, "Oh man, I could probably be finishing way faster," but he was just coaching me, and I was coaching him, and it was a great experience that we'll never forget. And we'll go back there, I'm sure, and do another race, even though I swore it off in the moment.
I feel like, again, I've heard you say that so many times, and every time I'm like, man, if Yassine says that means it's serious. And then 2 months later, you're like, dude, I'm going back to hurt, or I'm doing this or that. I don't know. I'm really, really thankful for these types of stories, because a big part of why we do this show, and especially what we've sort of realized as we've done this show now for close to 6 years, is this community aspect of things, and how everyone can help and affect one another. Our viewers and our listeners and stuff, they are out there crushing their own events, races, whatever the distance is, but they're also supporting one another, and like hearing you support Joe and Joe support you, and that leapfrog back and forth. And it happens during states. And I mean, even as you were talking about that, I was like, we had Casey and Magda and Amanda on last year to talk about how they banded together.
Right.
And it was
exactly. I was at that race where they had to band together as well. That's another example.
I guess maybe it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago. It was 2017. Yep.
But it's like, it's one, it's all good and well to go out and like crush a race and win it. But I think that to hear the stories of, like your story, Yassine, is touches many more people in a more relatable way.
Completely. People are going to be listening or watching this, Yassine, and they're going to be at a point in their race where they're going to be hurting, or maybe they're going to be feeling great,
hurting,
and they're going to be seeing someone else suffering. And maybe just that moment of, hey, Yassine did this for Joe, or Joe did this for Yassine. So maybe I'm going to talk to this person and help them, and maybe their whole day will shift. Like, that's, if we can have more of that in this world, I think it's all just a better place, right? Not to take something so specific and turn it into a global.
Right. Well,
but at the same point, it's true.
Yeah, and I often tell people, like when I work the aid stations too, and like sometimes like deep into a race, I'll see people just like so like struggling and suffering and serious, and I'll try to remind people that like, hey, I just want to remind you that our lives are so good that we have to pay money to put ourselves in these situations. And it's sometimes it's easy to forget that, because you just get so in your head, and it's uncomfortable, and you have to remember that like our lives are good. Like, look where we're running right now. Like, make a gratitude list while you're out there. And Joe was trying to remind me of that too. Like, there were times where I was just like, honestly, like, I don't know if I could do this, man. I really don't know if I can do this. Like, we just put down a 56-minute mile.
Yeah.
A 56-minute mile.
You're at my pace now.
Think about that one. Yeah, I did a 56-minute mile. So it involved me like laying down on the side of the trail and really struggling, and
wow.
Joe asking me to see if I could find some joy in my heart and stuff like that. Yeah.
Do you know what was the cause of your low?
I think it was like also some heat related issues, low calories, monster climbs, and just the combination of dehydration and just no energy trying to go up these huge climbs. And he thinks it was because I took this 5-hour energy as well.
Have you ever done that?
I have.
Okay.
But yeah, my heart rate was getting kind of weird, and I was like overheating, and it wasn't that hot at nighttime, and I was like really just like sweating profusely. So my body was just kind of like my system had kind of gone haywire. And
I got a shock.
I just never like throw up, and that was only the second time I ever threw up in a race out of nearly 100 ultras. So Yeah, it's just that, like I said, though, that course is really tough too. It's so beautiful, but it's kind of a graduate level course.
No doubt. We've talked to lots of people about that course, about this race in the past, and it's just everything we hear about it, all the pictures, all the videos will never do it justice. The stories barely do it justice, and I know that just puts it at that much higher of a level. Before we get to some of our live questions, because Kim has pulled us across a bunch of them, we'll get to as many as we can before we move into the after show. Another former guest of the show, Gavin, who we just mentioned as well, was running PTL, which is the long UTMB race. He posted on his Facebook page. I encourage anyone who watched that show with Gavin to go to his Facebook page and check out his post. It sounds like, I mean, talk about graduate level. It was a really rough read when someone like Gavin.
I know. I saw
him
out there.
Rough day. Yeah, you did see him out there.
I saw him like the day before my race. I was surprised to see him in town because I knew he was out at PTL, and I was like,
"Yeah,
what are you doing here? Are you okay?" And he told me about that he had dropped out, and he told me about the course, and I knew that if he dropped out, that it's got to be something serious.
Something else.
Yeah.
Like I said, those mountains out there are no joke.
No joke. So let's get to some of these live questions. What we have Yassine during the main show here.
A question from Jordan. Jordan says, Yassine, for these overseas races, how much do you feel jet lag and food options affect actual race performance? Is there anything the racer can do to prepare for that transition?
So I did learn to try to go out there early. So I front loaded that's a really good question. I got out there like 5 days before the race and just really, I haven't had any trouble with food at all. But the jet lag has definitely been an issue for me. So I purposely go there much earlier to get acclimated.
Go ahead.
Question from Nathaniel in the chat room. Nathaniel says, UTMB races are unique. Aid station interviews and cameras following runners. What was it like in that environment? Does the extra exposure add or take away from the in-race experience?
Even with all the media and stuff like that, it's such a long race and so remote that it's really few and far between. I mean, you don't see them that often. I will say for me personally, with Columbia, Montreal, and Columbia Sportswear being such a presence there for that race, being the title sponsor, I felt like there was a lot more pressure on me, and maybe Joe felt like that too, to perform. But in the end, they just loved the story of the camaraderie as well. You know, even more so. I'm just proud that we got to the finish line. So, but yeah, to answer the question, I think it's kind of fun and kind of flattering too to have that, but it doesn't really distract me too much. It's such a place to capture, you know.
I mean, yeah, just again, it's an incredible place on this planet. I kind of analyzed the course, and every year the coverage gets better, and as someone who works in media and has worked in broadcast media in the past, I do the numbers, I do the math of like, how much does this cost to have this sort of footage and live streaming and all that sort of capabilities? But what I kind of figured out was you're actually only seeing a micro fraction of this entire race, right? Like there's so much playing out beyond the top 10 men and women. You know, there's hundreds, if not thousands of people behind them. But also the coverage between aid stations is non-existent. So like there's no one up there in those 6 to 8 to 10 mile stretches of just mountain passes and climbs and saddles and everything. So I imagine you get little blips of energy, crazy chaos, media, cameras, and then it's quiet for like 3-4 hours at a time.
Right, exactly. And it was really interesting, like, congrats to like all the winners and the front runners, and one of our guys finished 5th at CCC, and like Courtney and Pau Capel, like the last sections they can go on bicycle. So I saw some of the mountain bikes that had like mounted cameras on them that were just riding the bikes alongside the leaders, which was really cool see that. It was almost like Tour de France kind of style.
We're gonna have that at Tiger Claw next year. I know a lot of the cost that's involved, and it's a production that is, I don't know.
Impressive.
It is so impressive. Just the amount that they're able to afford and do for a trail race, an ultra like this. It's amazing for the global consumption, for the spectators across the globe. We are very lucky to have coverage like that of an event like this, for sure. This is expensive.
It is. It's wild. And yeah, somebody was telling me that like 30 to 40,000 people, go to Chamonix for this week. That includes all the racers and family and friends. And it's quite a hoopla out there, but it's awesome. And if you could get a chance to go out there, it's everywhere you look, there are runners, and the energy there is just next level.
Yeah.
Speaking of people in Chamonix, Maria Dalzot is in the chat room right now. And
Hey,
Maria says, jumping on really quick to say hello to the GR crew and a massive congrats to fellow Trail Butter ambassador Yassine. It's 4 a.m., so heading back to bed now.
Yeah. I think Maria's still over there. She had some great races. Another former guest of the show that was over there just crushing it, which is really cool to see. I was going to say that we're going to have 30 to 40,000 people at Tiger Claw next year. We're going to change Issaquah.
Awesome.
No?
Is that no? Okay.
That seems like over our permit capabilities. That will be the last Tiger Claw.
Yeah, we're very limited in our permit purposes, but
Issaquah, most country are.
Yeah. Maybe let's get to one more question, and then we're gonna move into the after show with Yassine Diboun.
Yeah. Let's see. Question from Deb. Deb says, where are we here? I'm a professional, you guys. Yeah, that's the one. Dev asked, what is harder, Western States 100 or CCC?
Oh, that's a good question. I think mile for mile, probably CCC, just because the climbs there are just ridiculous. I mean, Western States can be very difficult with the heat, but the course itself is not as difficult as the Alps.
There was a tweet that I saw from legend Carl Meltzer talking about how U.S. men and women training for something like UTMB have to live in Europe to really get the full training potential, because there's no place in the U.S. that has anything comparable. Would you say that's true?
I would agree with that. It just, even the stuff that I do out here, it's just the trails are different. The way we build trails are different. Like we do a lot of switchbacks and so yeah, I would agree with that.
I don't know. Forest Park seems like a perfect perfect replica of Mont Blanc. Maybe that's just me. It's just really difficult. A big thank you to our incredible guest tonight, Yassine Diboun, who just crushed the CCC. Were you gonna say something?
Nope.
It is so awesome to have him on. He's a wonderful friend, a wonderful human being, and a great ambassador to this sport. Yassine, can you remind people where they can find you on social media in case they want to follow up with questions of their own or anything?
Oh yeah, feel free to ask any questions. My Instagram and Twitter is at Yassine Diboun, YASSINE DIBOUN.
You are a rock star, my friend, and it is so great to have you back on, dude.
I love you guys, and everything you said right back at you. You guys are awesome pillars of the community, and you're spreading all this stuff around, and I love you guys. Hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, you too, brother. We'll have to make our trip down to Portland ASAP to get a run in with this guy.
He's still tired.
Well, he's still tired, so we can actually keep up with them. No doubt. We're going to move into our after show with Yassine Diboun. He's going to stick around for maybe 10 more minutes. We'll answer any residual questions, plus if any additional questions. And our after shows are for our Patreon supporters. If you would like to join our after shows, go to patreon.com/thegingerrunner. For as little as $1 a month, you get to participate in all of our after shows, get access to all of the archives, get cool perks and bonuses on the back end, including discounted free registration right now for our digital entry for GRGR, which is our Ginger Runner Global Run. We just closed registrations on all the t-shirt options last night at midnight. But if you wanted to participate on October 13th, you can still go get a digital entry at rungrgr.com. But Patreon supporters, we'll see you in just a couple minutes for our after show. Before we get to that, of course, we have a new segment that we've been doing this year on our show where we like to recognize members of this community, our viewers. who do incredible things out on their own, just crushing their goals. And they are our GR crew members of the week. Kim, who do we have as our GR crew members of the week?
This week, we have 2 GR crew members of the week. Our GR crew members of the week are John Onade and Ian Hurley, who both completed the OCC.
It's so awesome.
Congrats.
Yeah,
congratulations.
It was neat to see people from the GR crew there, meeting a lot of people, taking pictures with people like Casey and posting them in the group. So congrats to you two.
It's also been pretty cool because we've seen a couple like Ginger Runner head wraps out there, which is like you see the sea of people running these races and they're just decked out in the like best Solomon gear, best Columbia Montreal gear, just the best kits possible. And you'll see the occasional Ginger Runner head wrap, and it's like, wow, we made the cut.
I actually think I saw somebody out there with a Ginger Runner head wrap.
Really?
I think so. Yeah.
They are the coolest humans on earth, whoever they are. So that's awesome. If you have if you were out there running and you have a picture, send it to us. We'd love to use it. Show some people how cool you are. All right, we're going to move into the after show. We appreciate everyone joining us tonight on Ginger Runner Live, episode number 274. Reminder, the UTMB talk continues next Monday live at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time with UTMB 2019 champion Courtney Dauwalter. It's going to be great to have her on to talk all about her transition from states with the injury, recouping from that injury, and then just crushing it at UTMB. Should be a fantastic show. That'll be next Monday. But we'll see everyone here who is a Patreon supporter in the after show. Thank you, everyone. Am I forgetting anything?
I don't think so.
Get out there, train hard, race harder, and part of the hardest. I know I am. See you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Ginger